This morning, I want to talk about the media reaction to the South Africa tweet from Donald Trump yesterday on my channel. I did a video about what was actually going on in South Africa with white farmers and land expropriation. Obviously, I can't cover everything. I only did like a 12 to 13 minute video, and there are documentaries about the issue, so you should definitely check them out. But for those that are wondering, this is kind of a new thing I'm going to try out, where I do a 10 a.m. morning show, and then a 4 p.m. show, and then the same thing on my second channel. So my workload is dramatically increasing, and I don't know if I can, I'm gonna see if I can do it. We'll see if we can make this happen every day. So for those that might be new to my channel, hit the subscribe button, and I've got a ton of videos. I'm gonna try for 2 per day, but let's talk about this. Yesterday, for those that weren't aware, Trump said, "I have asked Secretary of State, Secretary Pompeo, to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers." They are. So this stems back to the South African government has been trying to redistribute land because most of the farms are owned by white people, about 72%, but white people are only 9% of the country. So they want, to make an equality push. There have been activists who said they want to seize the means of production and things like that. But today, we're not talking about South Africa. We're talking about the media response because, oh boy, I hope you're ready for a contradiction. I hope you're ready for hypocrisy. And I hope you're ready for some more evidence of Trump derangement syndrome because, oh boy, to say the least. So this is what Trump tweeted. And this is in relation to, apparently he watched a Tucker Carlson segment where he talked about the large-scale killing of farmers. It's happening. He talked about land being seized from white farmers. It's happening. And I have sources for this. So let's take a look at this thread. This is from Nick Monroe. Nick Monroe, I'm not super familiar with, but I've seen some of his threads. He does these really long threads. And to an extent, I think I disagree with the thesis of his Twitter thread, but let's take a look at some of the photos he posted. So the thread starts, and you can see you've got Elizabeth Spires, journalist. And what Nick Monroe did was he took these tweets from these high-profile or verified journalists and juxtaposed it with murders. So I don't want to focus too much on this, but show you some examples of what people are saying. Elizabeth Spires said the President of the United States is self-evidently a white supremacist, whether he self-identifies that way or not. Nick Monroe said, "I want you to all look at this and decide for yourselves. Does South Africa's situation look like a meme to you?" So we have this image he posted from Kate Maltby. He is literally making policy on the basis of white supremacist internet memes. Okay, not true. We have another post from Chris Zappone, an alt-right theme, already amplified by Peter Dutton MP. Now it hits the big time with Donald Trump. Then we have this one says, "As DG is serious said, this is a dog trombone." So this tweet specifically is in relation to journalist Danny Gold, who said that Trump tweeting this out was a dog trombone, whereas a dog whistle is meant to be a secret coded message to a specific group of people of a political affiliation. He's saying that, Trump tweeting this out is dog whistling to Nazis. We have another one. "This is literally a white nationalist talking point spouted by the angry YouTube men and Nazi websites. There is no reality to this." Okay, I just want to say this again. It's true. The white farmers are being killed. Farmers at large are being killed. And I think, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, the reason people think that it's mostly white farmers, it is mostly white farmers, but it's not. The reason people think it's racially motivated is because most farm owners are white. So this is really happening. And I think motivation is something that people are trying to figure out. But it's strange to me to see all of these verified individuals that Nick Monroe has collected saying that this is white supremacy, this is a white nationalist talking point. So I want to jump over to a comment I made. There was a comment from Abby D. Phillip. She's with CNN, and she said, "One of the tweets Trump sent last night, this one was perhaps the more revealing, a straight-from-TV defense of white farmers in South Africa over non-existent large-scale killings." I tweeted, "It's almost like a CNN reporter didn't even do a Google search because when you open the link that I provided, it's the Wikipedia page for the South African farm attacks. In the attacks on South African farms, predominantly white farmers and black farm workers are subjected to violent crime, including rape and murder. It mentions that from 1990 to 2012, there had been an estimated 1,544 murders on South African farms." So I want to point this out not because I want to have an argument over what you find to be large-scale killings, but there's a lot of murders, and Wikipedia has a page on this. So when she said non-existent large-scale killings, well, okay, maybe that's an opinion. But I think it's unfair to say that they're non-existent when the murders do happen, so much so that it has been reported on by most news outlets. So when they say that Donald Trump is a white nationalist and white supremacist because he talked about this, I have to wonder, is Newsweek dog whistling white supremacy? Because here's a story from March 19th. March 19th of this year. A white farmer is killed every 5 days in South Africa, and authorities do nothing about it, activists say. Why would Newsweek, a left-leaning website, be dog-whistling to neo-Nazis? I thought this was just an internet meme among the alt-right. Something is strange. See, I read the news all the time, and I've seen this story time and time again. Lauren Southern's documentary has nearly 2 million views, so if you're paying attention to the news, you've probably heard of it, and you've heard of what she's doing. And so yes, I've seen this story from Newsweek. Then we have this story from Newsweek. White nationalists praise Donald Trump for spreading white South African farmers' conspiracy theory. This is just 5 months later. So Newsweek, if Donald Trump is simply saying that he wants Secretary Pompeo to look into it, he didn't say anything about white genocide or anything like that, which is the more, white identitarian meme. I have to wonder what Newsweek's own opinion is on itself for writing about this story. Now, look, a lot of these stories are critical, and they say that it's not about race. And I think that's true. It's robbery. South Africa is a relatively dangerous country. I shouldn't even say relatively, it's very dangerous. And people, look, you live in the middle of nowhere, they're going to rob you and try and steal your money. But we can also look at some other sources. We have this from the Toronto Sun: white South African farmers protest murder spree. Well, the Toronto Sun in October called it a murder spree. And this is actually from the Associated Press. Let's not talk about my opinion on what a large-scale killing is. Let's just talk about the Associated Press and the Toronto Sun calling it a murder spree. All right? We have this story from the Washington Post: President Trump's false claim about murders on South African farms. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to show what I view as, I'm going to say it, Trump derangement syndrome. Donald Trump made a simple tweet. He said that he was going to look into it. There's stories about large-scale killings, and Trump expressed interest in having Secretary Pompeo look into it. That's it. Trump didn't say, hey, this is true. He didn't make a statement about it. He said, look into this. He didn't, oh my God, isn't this crazy? Trump did not make a definitive statement about what was going on, other than it seems like he watched Tucker Carlson and said, we should look into this. And so the reporter here takes Trump's tweet: I have asked Secretary of State, Secretary Pompeo, to closely study the South African land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killings of farmers, yada, yada, yada. And he's calling it a myth fueled by white supremacists for years before it surfaced in a presidential tweet. My God. Is the BBC pushing a white supremacist myth? This is what's really crazy. Looking at the media response to Donald Trump's tweet really does blow my mind, and it says something. When the BBC, when Newsweek, when the Toronto Sun, the Associated Press, when Al Jazeera are all talking about the murders on farms, admittedly, like this one from Al Jazeera is talking about it critically, as are some of these other articles. The point is, when the Associated Press calls it a murder spree, the Toronto Sun, a murder spree. I'm saying that because it's an Associated Press story. If you are now saying that simply because Trump brought this up, you are accusing him of dog whistling Nazis or spreading white supremacist myths, then what does that say about the Associated Press, the BBC, Newsweek, mainstream media? It would seem like this story existed. These news websites had no problem reporting on it and reporting on what was going on, though admittedly, South Africa is not in it's not the focal point for North Americans, so that's why I think you don't see a lot of mainstream coverage from North America. I don't think it's some conspiracy. But if all of these news outlets are going to talk about it, why now did it become a white supremacist meme? Why now are people saying he's dog whistling? Because you're not going to convince me, you are not going to convince me that Newsweek was dog whistling neo-Nazis. I mean, you can try. I'm not going to believe you. You're not going to convince me that an Associated Press run story about white farmer murder sprees, a farmer being murdered every 5 days. It's absolutely strange to me that we are going to see these stories, but as soon as Trump tweets about it, it becomes white supremacy. And I can only draw one conclusion. Trump derangement syndrome is real. These journalists, one of them, who blocked me, said that we all need to pay attention to what the anti-fascists are saying now because they've been right the whole time. That Trump tweeting about this proves that he's a neo-Nazi. I'm sorry. Newsweek is a left wing, like absolutely on the left, not left-leaning, it is literally left and sometimes far left publication. They very active in terms of intersectional feminism with their stories. And if in March they talked about white farmers being killed every 5 days and authorities doing nothing about it, activists say, or the Associated Press talking about it, I have to imagine that we're in for a kind of rough ride in this country because journalists don't have Google, apparently. It took me no more than 2 minutes to find these stories by simply Google searching South Africa white farmers. And I looked in archive and I could see all of the stories from the other day saying that Trump is making false claims, that he's dog whistling neo-Nazis. And I could see these same outlets reporting the exact same thing that Trump was going to look into. And not only that, Trump didn't tweet, white farmers are being killed, this needs to change, yada, yada, yada. He said, we're going to look into this issue of. It would seem like Trump wasn't even definitively saying it was true, but he wanted someone to look into it because the story exists. It was reported by Newsweek before it was reported by Fox News. Yet, for some reason, a definitive statement from Newsweek is not a dog whistle to neo-Nazis. Makes you think, doesn't it? So anyway, that's it. I'm going to be experimenting with the morning show. Videos will be up every morning at 10 a.m. And then I will have my regularly scheduled episode at 4 p.m. These are, you may have noticed that this one is, it's called being shot live, which means I just do it in a single take like I do on my second channel. And then I fully aim to continue with my second channel as well. Just want to make sure that I increase the workload as much as possible. So stick around, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. I will have another video up at 4 p.m. And you can follow me on Twitter at TimCast. Again, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all today at 4.